Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Shift. We come from different places today. We have a bit of a Brady Bunch shift doing Zoom, and you see our characters on the screen. Kathi Tunheim, president of our council, Brian, of course, our senior pastor, and John Sweeney, treasurer, and on our finance committee. We wanted to give you an update as to Trinity and what we're doing. We hope that you have been able to watch our services on YouTube, view our emails, see us on Facebook and Instagram, or have been reached out through some of our card ministries. So today we want to start with Brian. Brian, why don't you tell us how you, first of all, you're actually back. This is the first time we really are able to talk with you from surgery.
Yes. Yes, and it was an interesting surgery, but I would say it was very successful. I'm able to walk without any leg pain for a good 2-3 miles for the first time in probably 4.5 years. So spinal fusion was done, and one of our own doctors at Trinity, Dr. John Sherman, did the work and did such an outstanding job. And it just feels good to not have pain when you're walking or standing.
That's so awesome. So how is it to be back? We had Easter.
Yeah.
Crazy, doesn't it, guys?
And coming back to this new reality has been very, very interesting. But I'm so grateful for Pastor Ann and the other staff members of Trinity in my absence, and the lay leaders, the incredible lay leaders at Trinity that did such a great job in my absence. And I was really able to take the time to heal properly, and now back into the whirlwind, a different kind of whirlwind.
So do you want to tell us a little bit, I will back up just a minute and say you had a funeral, a virtual funeral.
We did, yeah. The funerals right now, if you see the obituaries in the paper, you'll see that a lot of them are doing celebrations of life later on when we're able to gather back together again. But there are some families that really need some closure right away, and so we did a prayer service, which was really kind of like a funeral a couple weeks ago with one of our dear members, Jeff Kesey, and we used this Zoom technology, and it seemed to work pretty well. It's not like being together, in person, but it sure was good, I think, to be together to praise God and to give thanks for Jeff's life.
And I know that you're also making personal calls, and you just had a Zoom coffee this morning. Yeah.
Yes. So my goal is every Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning and every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. To have a gathering of people. I hope those of you who are watching this shift will consider it. But this morning, all it was just we had 16 people that were together virtually, and we checked in. I checked in with everyone and asked them the question, what have you learned or discovered in this time of COVID-19? And then I presented a resurrection text from Scripture, The Road to Emmaus, and we had just a delightful discussion about that. It's very low-keyed. You don't have to participate and speak if you don't want to, but it's just so good to see people and to be with people, even if it's virtual.
Let's have that lead us into council met last night.
Right.
What's an update from council?
Well, you may or may not know that we have 12 lay leaders elected by the congregation every year at the annual meeting who meet on the second Thursday of every month. And so I don't know if it was the first time in the history of Trinity Lutheran Church Long Lake or not, but we had our first remote meeting last night during coronavirus, and it was still very productive. I think we were all quite pleased to see how we could get our business meeting accomplished. And one of the first items of business that we did, since it was kind of the first meeting of the year, is that we elected our executive committee. And I thought that might be meaningful for people to know that John Sweeney was reelected as our treasurer. Carol Narum was elected as our secretary, and she's a new member on the council, so we're grateful that she stepped up and said yes to that. Michelle Edwards is going to be our vice president again, and I will serve again in the role as a president for 1 more year. So we're grateful to all of our council members who are contributing their time and energy, and we had a couple of important things that we talked about last night. We discussed that the church, and I'll ask John Sweeney to go into more detail about that, applied for a PPP loan authorized by the CARES Act, which you probably have read in the paper, heard about in the news as a Paycheck Protection Program. And we did receive approval for that. So that was good news and helps our financial situation. We also amended the preschool bylaws, and John, who is the board chair of that group, can talk about that in a little bit more detail. We did spend significant time on, after stay-at-home is lifted by Governor Walz down the road here, what does church look like for Trinity? And I want to thank our pastors. Brian and Ann have done a lot of benchmarking with other churches. But some of the things we talked about were more access to hand sanitizer, if we can get more and have those at the church. Potentially people wearing masks. I understand there's a team making masks now. So would we have those available when people walk in, or to just please tell people to wear masks when they come to church, that it's A-okay and we encourage it. One of our youth, junior in high school, suggested sanitization stations when you walk in. So I thought that was kind of a clever idea that we are considering. And then the last thing are some best practices around Holy Communion. And what does that look like after Corona, or during or after coronavirus? And so we did not make decisions about that, but we certainly discussed it, and we'll do what we think is right for everyone involved here. So I guess the last thing I'll say, if anybody has any questions or concerns, to please reach out to us on the council. You can find our emails on the church website. We're happy to listen and take your input and share it with the rest of the council next month.
Okay. And John, Kathi teed you up for finance. Would you update us, please?
Sure. I'm going to go back to about the middle of March when we heard that the schools are going to close. We knew likely that our preschool would have to close when the schools closed. That, of course, happened. And then from that, we had the stay-at-home mandate, and that required us to essentially close the entire facility and have online services. So with the great help of our finance manager, Rindy Erdman, she and I did a number of contingency analyses, realizing that we probably would see some reduction in congregation giving during the period. So we looked at from April to June, or April through July in this analysis. And our goal is really, in both cases, the preschool and the church, is to find a way that we could keep everybody employed so they could continue to work on the critical missions. So, and we did see in March a reduction, a little bit less than what we anticipated as the most likely case. But what I really am excited about hearing from Rindy is that we had a number of people sign up for electronic giving. We had 41 families that weren't using it before. And other people have been mailing checks in, and there's a new way of doing it now with the phone. So if you look at trinitylonglake.org/giving, you can see a number of ways that you can continue to make your contributions to the church, which would be much appreciated during this time frame. Also, what happened is we became aware through a number of sources, including the ELCA Synod, that Trinity Lutheran Church and the preschool qualified to apply for a loan under the PPP program, payroll protection program under the CARES Act. And with Rindy's great effort, we did that right away, submitted the application. She had all the supporting detail. We had resolutions passed, and I'm pleased to say that the application was approved, and on Wednesday, the money arrived at the church, which will help us through this period. But I want to continue to make the point that we really appreciate the congregation to continue giving to the ministry through mailing checks in or using some of the electronic means.
Yeah, and that's really true for all churches. You know, I think everyone would love it if we could do that electronically, because it just means that it's consistent. And I think I don't know that it surprised me, but it sort of did that we would reach out for some funding. And I think it makes a lot of sense. People, if they aren't employed, of course, you know, it adds to more issues. And I know the staff is really, really grateful for that support, both the Trinity staff and the preschool staff too.
Right. And the preschool has been a long-standing local outreach program, I think going back to the 80s, and we really have some great momentum. I just heard from Kelly Goverick, our executive director, that we already have 50 registrations for next September, so that's fantastic. The other point I would make quickly about electronic giving, you can set it up so that it could be reoccurring weekly or monthly, but you can also set it up so it's just one time. So you can decide when it's best in your personal situation to contribute. So we would appreciate you looking at that. Again, the phone is a great option. It's an app that you can put on the phone. I know my daughters use it, and it works well. So.
Great, thank you. And I, from being at church, as the facilities person, I have the opportunity to come over, and my children really appreciate me leaving the house. So I really appreciate it. But I've seen a few people come in, and I know that the preschool teachers are working on videos for their kids, and they're doing Zoom for them. That Julie Vogley is doing the same, and Stacy. And the serve ministry is, as always, outstanding in people's contributions. For instance, Jill asked for contributions for Simpson Housing, and our narthex got a pretty good load. So we are grateful for that, and ended up, I think, giving to probably 3 shelters.
Yeah, like, if I could add to that, one of the things I'm so grateful for is the Trinity staff. And I think one of the things that everyone agrees on right now is they care about you as worshipers and as members of Trinity. And so I think we're all working hard to do as creative and innovative ways to reach out to you. You know, Geraldine made notice of a couple of things, but just you know, other things, we've got both the bell and the vocal choirs at our meeting for community on Zoom. We're of course doing you know, worship virtually now, and Mark Hemingway, our music and worship director, is a born producer director. Just makes the setting so intimate and so wonderful to be a part of. We have our children, youth, and family that are using all kinds of platforms, reaching out to people from, you know, the telephone, believe it or not, that still is in existence, texting, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those things. The staff is being kept very, very busy, and but they're happy to do it in this time because they care deeply for all of you at Trinity.
Jerry, can I also add that at the council meeting last night, we heard from the 3 youth representatives that Megan and Tyler were also doing Zoom meetings, and we were really impressed with that. So again, from the lay leaders and Brian and Ann, we're extremely impressed with our staff, and just want to say thanks to all of you, and keep going, because we need you. We miss you, right? We're longing to reunite with all of you, but if we can do it in other ways, it really helps us.
Yeah, I think Tim at this last Wednesday night's confirmation gathering on Zoom had 30 kids and some parents that were a part of that. So it's pretty neat to see that the communities are using technology to get together.
It really is. I'm going to grab the mask I have. There are at least a couple, there are many folks out there sewing masks, and I have a couple of versions, I'm happy to say, and they have been doing two things. One is giving them to people in need, but also we'd asked if anyone needs one. We've arranged for people to drop off or pick up. We have a couple of bins outside our door. So when we're talking about coming back, I think that we can keep masks in supply. And we're also talking about doing a community meal next week and for those in need. So we are trying to reach out, and I think I just want to say that if anyone feels like they're being included, call the church, leave a message, whatever, because we're really trying to, use various means to do that because we miss everyone.
Yeah, and some of you probably received an email also that if you know of someone who is in need, please let myself, Pastor Ann, or Jill Cornell know. We sent out an email on constant contact, and so many of you did receive that, but just keep your eyes and ears open for those in need. And thanks to all of you folks for your support and your prayers in this time. It just so happens to be Sunday is the beginning of a National Volunteer Week. And we are so grateful for the volunteers at this community of faith called Trinity. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for doing the shift today. We hope that it's been helpful to you, and we look forward to meeting again.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.